here. Last week we kind of did a big, broad overview of Joel, and so we kind of went through all of that. So we'll kind of slow down here and see how we do. So we kind of went over. All these things. So chapter 1 has a lot of Exodus imagery in it. A lot of Exodus. So let's start off and we'll do chapter 1. Let's see. Share the screen, hit that button. All right, here we go.
The book of Joel. The word of the Lord that came to Joel, the son of Pethuel.
Hear this, you elders, and give ear, all you inhabitants of the land. Has anything like this happened in your days, or even in the days of your fathers? Tell your children about it. Let your children tell their children, and their children another generation. What the chewing locust left, the swarming locust has eaten. What the swarming locust left, the crawling locust has eaten. And what the crawling locust left, the consuming locust has eaten. Awake, you drunkards, and weep, and wail, all you drinkers of wine, because of the new wine, for it has been cut off from your mouth.
For a nation has come up against my land, strong and without number. His teeth are the teeth of a lion, and he has the fangs of a fierce lion. He has laid waste my vine and ruined my fig tree. He has stripped it bare and thrown it away. Its branches are made white.
Lament like a virgin girded with sackcloth for the husband of her youth. The grain offering and the drink offering have been cut off from the house of the Lord. The priests mourn who minister to the Lord. The field is wasted, the land mourns, for the grain is ruined. The new wine is dried up, the oil fails. Be ashamed, you farmers, wail, you vine dressers, for the wheat and the barley, because the harvest of the field has perished. The vine is dried up, and the fig tree has withered. The pomegranate tree, the palm tree also, and the apple tree, all the trees of the field are withered. Surely joy has withered away from the sons of men. Gird yourselves and lament, you priests. Wail, you who minister before the altar. Come, lie all night in sackcloth, you who minister to my God. For the grain offering and the drink offering are withheld from the house of your God. Consecrate a fast, call a sacred assembly, gather the elders and all the inhabitants of the land into the house of the Lord your God, and cry out to the Lord, Alas for the day! For the day of the Lord is at hand. It shall come as destruction from the Almighty. Is not the food cut off before our eyes? Joy and gladness from the house of our God? The seed shrivels under the clods. Storehouses are in shambles. Barns are broken down, for the grain has withered. How the animals groan. The herds of cattle are restless, because they have no pasture. Even the flocks of sheep suffer punishment. O Lord, to you I cry out, for fire has devoured the open pastures, and a flame has burned all the trees of the field. The beasts of the field also cry out to you, for the water brooks are dried up, and fire has devoured the open pastures.
Sorry about. I didn't realize that the app wasn't keeping up there. They have a wonky. You're muted, Ed.
It wasn't me. It was you.
Yeah, it was me. I got to remember to actually click the top verse when I start it, or it won't follow it down. So sorry about that. Okay, so what stood out to you in this? What sounds familiar? What's going on? What's going on here in chapter 1?
It's a lot of woe.
It's a lot of woe.
It reminds me of Isaiah with everything being dead.
Yeah.
It's also the Exodus.
Yeah.
The locust.
The locusts are a direct relation to Exodus. Like you have the 10 plagues and you have the locusts that go over and consume everything. So like you have this idea of kind of, I don't know, judgment of God and how he's coming, and like the land is just laid waste by all these locusts. But like it's really the next chapter where we see this, but so we have, it's just locusts now, but he's hinting at there's a bigger idea that's afoot, that people have come into the land. We see that at the beginning of chapter 2, but there's this whole thing. It's just devouring everything. What other themes are you seeing from chapter 1? Not everyone at once.
The way he begins too, he says in 3, let children and let them tell your so he's like, this is a lesson that needs to be,
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah. No, I like that. I like that's interesting. So you're saying that this is like, hey, take heed.
Right.
Take heed and learn.
Right, because this happened before.
Yeah. Well, this is the cycle of the day of the Lord.
Yeah.
We kind of mentioned that last week, but it's the great and glorious day of the Lord, and that Babylons are always rising up. They're always rising up, and you see that with the first Tower of Babylon, the Tower of Babel at the beginning, where they built this thing to become to basically get above God type of thing. But you see that in Exodus. And that's what's so nefarious about when God rips them out of Exodus and they're wandering around the wilderness, and then they want to go back, or they rip them out of Egypt and they want to go back to Egypt. The people that want to go back to Egypt they want to go back to the ways of Babylon. And they're like, man, at least when we were in the ways of Babylon, we were eating meat pots. This is language of Exodus there. And so we look around and we see these different Babylons. Babylon is, in the Bible, is known as Egypt, Assyria, Babylon. It's not really in the Bible, but in the intertestamental books, it is it's Greece, Alexander the Great, it's Rome in the New Testament is Babylon. And so you have all these Babylons that are coming forward. And so.
And is that like going back to sin? God saved me, but now I'm more comfortable in my sin. I want to go back.
I think so. Like it's that the sin. I think it's. Yeah, I can look past everything that Babylon is doing, as long as I'm still getting mine. I can look past all that. I can look at, they don't quite rise up to Babylon levels, I don't think, but the Philistines in Judges and David's time, in the time of the kings, where they were doing child sacrifice, and it's that was the issue, is that they kept commingling with these people that are doing child sacrifice, that type of thing, and so which means that they were doing it themselves, we'll really give God something good here, and so that's you kind of have this whole means, and it's really just throwing what God has given you throwing it away. And so like, yeah, so you have this lesson again, because where are they again? They're in Babylon. Here they are, and it goes back to that lesson of careful what you wish for, you just might get it. And this lesson goes, it runs too deep. Paul, have you been to one of these yet? Have you been to one of our Bible studies yet? Maybe once.
Last year.
Last year. So you're going to feel lost for the first little bit here, like all that stuff. But welcome. One of the core principles of this is there is such a thing as a stupid question, but stupid questions usually get us to good ones.
Yeah.
So that is a so it's kind of like ask whatever you want, but typically, like, you feel lost for the first little bit. Just letting you know that's normal. And then you kind of catch up and see what's going on. You're like, oh, okay.
Speaking of stupid questions.
Yeah.
Verse 11.
Yeah.
Is he talking to the churches? Is this directed to, be ye ashamed, the farmers wail and the vine dressers? Aren't we the farmers and the wine dressers? Is that what he's talking about?
Well, I think he's talking about God's people, and so he's talking about Israel. Oh, there's Lee. Hold on, we got someone else coming in. Like that's the he's talking about so he's talking about Israel and all of those things. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I didn't understand if he was saying this to prophesize about churches not doing their jobs, or not just churches, us as believers not spreading the word enough, because it says that everything is dried up and the field is perished.
Yeah.
I wondered if that was the message saying, you're not doing your job, you're not spreading the word, or you're not living the word,
So I do think there is imagery there, because the imagery that, especially in the Old Testament. Hi, Lee. Sorry I didn't see you coming in for a while. We're talking about chapter 1 right now. There's a bigger idea that's going on here. The Israelites, especially the prophets, there's this grand narrative that's going on, that God created everything, in creation. This was the grand narrative, and created everything, and he created it fruitful, and then Adam and Eve, man and woman were to be fruitful and multiply, and that went with everything in the garden. They were to cultivate it. They were ruling the garden, so they were being good stewards of all the things they were giving, of using the creation and stewarding anything in it, and it was exceedingly fruitful. But when they took of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, I think the desire then was to be like God, that brought in death. And so you see that in the cycle. Then you get to the Tower of Babel, and they're building this tower to be like God. That's what they're doing. And you see that they're kind of dispersed, and we pick up Abraham. And that line of Abraham ends up getting them into slavery, which is how they end up. There's not like a specific sin besides just Adam and Eve that got them there. That's kind of key. But then God pulls them out again and takes them to the land with milk and honey. Right? It's this idea of almost like wild and waste, bringing creative order again and bringing them back into fruitfulness. And then they chase after Babylon again. Like, this is this cycle that you're seeing. And so when they're chasing after Babylon, this is Old Testament prophets language, when they're chasing after Babylon, it brings nothing but death, right? And when they're going the other way, they're living in the garden and there's abundance all around. So when you see that, like verse 7 says, he has laid waste my vine and ruined my fig tree. Like this is a death of Eden that's going on here. That like so, just as the locusts are this metaphorical language of laid waste to everything, talking about the Exodus and all that stuff, we're seeing that it's all dead still, and so these farmers then are also representative of that they're not cultivating the garden anymore, and everything is dead. I don't know if that makes any sense. It makes sense in my mind, but that doesn't mean it actually makes sense to anyone else. Like that. That's
so the path. You're saying the path is wrong. Our path has been wrong, or in they're going after the wrong things, not trying to.
Yeah. They're going after Babylon. It hasn't said that yet. That's coming. It hasn't said that yet. But it's what we've seen is that they have been taken over by this swarm of locusts has come over them, and it has just laid waste to the fruitfulness. It has laid waste to everything. Like everything's just kind of dead, and so. And you kind of see all that. Yeah, Tracy?
The Jewish Bible also points out in their notes that because everything's laid to waste, the priest can't make the daily sacrifice. Which they feel
nothing.
Part of their, good getting God to do this is giving him those daily sacrifices to grain and all of that.
Okay, yeah. That's interesting. So they can't even do their daily rites and all that stuff because the famine is so severe.
And then the beasts of the field and all that, those are the innocents. God's people have ruined creation, and even the animals, or the whole creation is suffering.
The whole creation is suffering. And this is the thing about famines. And this is very evident in the Bible when you're reading it. But as a human history, we've known this forever about what causes famines. It's normally not weather patterns. It's conflicts and people using the food supply or something like that in order to hurt other people is often what causes famines. And so that's what's going on here, and the Bible alludes to that kind of constantly through here. So you have these locusts coming in here, and then let's see, I had this underlined in verse 15. Oh yeah, it's the day of the Lord stuff. So alas, for the day of the Lord is at hand, and it shall come as destruction from the Almighty. And that day of the Lord is this great and glorious day of the Lord when all these things come to reckoning. Like that's the downfall of the Tower of Babel. The Tower of Babel, everyone is confused and stuff like that. That is a day of the Lord. And the day of the Lord falls upon Egypt when all the plagues hit upon them, and they continue to chase after God's people, and the day of the Lord falls upon them when the sea collapses around them. That is a day of the Lord activity. And so now Israel is facing the day of the Lord because they've wanted to become Babylon. And so and I think it's one of my oldest things I've said here. Gloria knows it.
It's a judgment.
Yeah, it's a judgment. It is that I think the reason why Israel was taken over by Babylon, why God allowed Israel to be overcome by Babylon, is they were trying to be Babylon so bad themselves. They were trying to be Babylon so bad, and God's like, well, if you want to be Babylon, Here you go. You can be Babylon, you know? And that's when you pick up prophets like Jeremiah and the latter part of Isaiah, and a lot of these that are how do you live in Babylon and not be Babylon? You know, like that's what they try to do. That's that Jeremiah verse where it's like give and take in marriage, you know, like that's seek the welfare of your community. Daniel is about how you live in Babylon. And so, and yet not be Babylon. And so that's, I don't know. So, all right, what else stood out to you here? Two is going to answer some of these questions that we have.
Pastor, I've got a question.
Yeah.
So in verse 6, the nation that has invaded my land, is that Babylon then?
Assyria here.
Assyria. Okay.
So Babylon is this overarching thing. Yes, you have Babylon, but Babylon is this all corrupting kind of force. So when I'm using Babylon, then I'm using it as this stand-in for these great empires that are around us, where it just serves power and all these things. So here it's Assyria.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So like Egypt was a Babylon type of thing. And so, all right. So anything else? Anything else before we go on to 2? Was there something? Yeah. All right. Well, let's listen to 2. Let's listen to 2. This button. Go to 2. No, maybe, possibly. He's thinking about it. Will it actually accomplish its task that it was given?
Paul's Jewish Bible has 4 chapters. So what's he do?
Oh yeah. The Jewish Bible has. Yeah, I don't know why it broke it up differently. So like Paul. So Tracy actually has the Jewish Study Bible.
Yeah.
And I meant to bring it out with me today, and I completely forgot.
4 chapters.
Yeah, I think it said why.
Yeah. All right. So here's 2.
Blow the trumpet in Zion, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord is coming. For it is at hand, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness, like the morning clouds spread over the mountains.
A people come, great and strong, the like of whom has never been, nor will there ever be any such after them, even for many successive generations. A fire devours before them, and behind them a flame burns. The land is like the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Surely nothing shall escape them. Their appearance is like the appearance of horses, and like swift steeds, so they run. With a noise like chariots over mountain tops they leap, like the noise of a flaming fire that devours the stubble. Like a strong people set in battle array. Before them, the people writhe in pain. All faces are drained of color. They run like mighty men. They climb the wall like men of war. Everyone marches in formation, and they do not break ranks. They do not push one another. Everyone marches in his own column. Though they lunge between the weapons, they are not cut down. They run to and fro in the city. They run on the wall. They climb into the houses. They enter at the windows like a thief. The earth quakes before them. The heavens tremble. The sun and moon grow dark, and the stars diminish their brightness. The Lord gives voice before his army, for his camp is very great. For strong is the one who executes his word. For the day of the Lord is great and very terrible. Who can endure it?
Now, therefore, turn to me with all your heart, with fasting, with weeping, and with mourning.
So rend your heart, and not your garments. Return to the Lord your God, for he is gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and of great kindness, and he relents from doing harm. Who knows if he will turn and relent, and leave a blessing behind him, a grain offering and a drink offering for the Lord your God. Blow the trumpet in Zion, consecrate a fast, call a sacred assembly, gather the people, sanctify the congregation, assemble the elders, gather the children and nursing babes. Let the bridegroom go out from his chamber, and the bride from her dressing room. Let the priests who minister to the Lord weep between the porch and the altar. Let them say, "Spare your people, O Lord, and do not give your heritage to reproach, that the nations should rule over them. Why should they say among the peoples, 'Where is their God?'" Then the Lord will be zealous for his land and pity his people. The Lord will answer and say to his people,
Behold, I will send you grain and new wine and oil, and you will be satisfied by them. I will no longer make you a reproach among the nations, but I will remove far from you the northern army, and will drive him away into a barren and desolate land, with his face toward the eastern sea, and his back toward the western sea. His stench will come up, and his foul odor will rise, because he has done monstrous things.
"Fear not, O land. Be glad and rejoice, for the Lord has done marvelous things. Do not be afraid, you beasts of the field, for the open pastures are springing up, and the tree bears its fruit. The fig tree and the vine yield their strength. Be glad then, you children of Zion, and rejoice in the Lord your God, for he has given you the former rain faithfully, and he will cause the rain to come down for you, the former rain and the latter rain in the first month. The threshing floor shall be full of wheat, and the vats shall overflow with new wine and oil.
So I will restore to you the years that the swarming locust has eaten, the crawling locust, the consuming locust, and the chewing locust, my great army, which I sent among you. You shall eat in plenty, and be satisfied, and praise the name of the Lord your God, who has dealt wondrously with you. And my people shall never be put to shame. Then you shall know that I am in the midst of Israel. I am the Lord your God, and there is no other. My people shall never be put to shame. And it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. Your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your old men shall dream dreams. Your young men shall see visions. And also on my men servants and on my maid servants I will pour out my spirit in those days. And I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the coming of the great and awesome day of the Lord. And it shall come to pass that whoever calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved.
For in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem there shall be deliverance, as the Lord has said, among the remnant whom the Lord calls.
Is that where the Jewish Study Bible?
That's chapter 3, from verse 28 to the end.
Okay, see, that makes sense that they split that up. That makes,
So the Jews got it right.
Yeah, they did on the chapter. There's so many places where the chapters are poorly done. So like it's most of them are fine, most of them, but there's some places where it's poorly done. All right, I want to limit us to verse 11 at first, because we really probably should have read 1 and then 2 through 11 as part of the first thing, because he's really, like, he goes through and talks about the locusts again, but he's talking about them in a different way. So how is he talking about them? What do they look like now? They look like soldiers, right? Like that. So you see this kind of twin idea going on here in this section with the first chapter, except now it looks like an army, looks like soldiers coming in. But it's also kind of a grotesque army. Like I don't know, hey, like you ever watch these movies that are kind of creepy, and it's got people like jumping on walls and stuff like I think the first Avengers movie does this. I don't know if you guys ever saw that, but it's like this alien race comes through this portal into New York City. You guys, uncultured swine. But like they're climbing on walls and stuff like that. It's like a scary image, and you kind of look at that, and they, like, what is it, verse 7? They run like mighty men. They climb the wall like men of war. Every march is great. I mean, it talks about them jumping over off the mountaintops and like all that stuff. It's kind of like it's scary how capable they are, and it's this image. But when you peel back that, it would make sense. I mean, imagine sitting in a city with walls around the defense, and you go in and out of those walls every day, and you go out and you leave the walls to go do farming or whatever, you're tending sheep or something like that, and you come into the protection of the city every day, and you think to yourself, boy, these walls are big. I would never be able to climb them. And then like a real army comes and they scale those walls in less than a minute. Yeah, they're like ninjas. And for you sitting in there, how terrifying that would be. You don't have any other place to go. Like that's and so like you pick up this idea. We don't fortify cities the same way they did back then. So you kind of got to put your mind into what you know from movies and books and stories and stuff like that.
Are you suggesting a sin of complacency?
What do you mean by that?
Like, I've been taking the walls for granted.
Oh no, I wasn't going there.
These walls are going to withstand anything.
I was like, it's written kind of scarily, like how these people walk on walls and scale them and all these things. I think it's talking about how mighty the locusts of this army look. That, just like when the locusts come and eat everything, there's no stopping them. You could go out there and fight them off with your hammer, but it would do nothing. It's just like this army, I don't think it's taking the walls for granted. I think it's there was nothing stopping them. They were going to be in there no matter what. Does that make sense? Like that's.
Well, I think maybe Mick was saying.
I don't know. I may be misunderstanding what you're saying.
Put a can here and pretend it's good.
Yeah.
I think what he's trying to say isn't that they took the walls for granted, but that they believed that the walls were protected. And then to see these people coming over the walls and not being stopped by the walls, and they thought we're going to protect them. It's not that they took them for granted as much as they.
It's more idol worship. Now the idol is the wall. We are impenetrable.
Yeah.
And it cannot resist the locust.
Yeah, okay, I see where you're going there. Like I wasn't sure, because there's not a lot of wall talk. That's what I was like.
He goes on though, and he talks later on, he says they rush the city and they run along the wall and they climb into the houses like thieves. They enter through the windows, and before them the earth shakes and the sky trembles.
Like, and it's all of a sudden everything collapses kind of a thing.
So, looking at 11, the Lord roars aloud at the head of his army. Are they describing the day of the Lord and God's destruction? His vast indeed are his hosts, numberless are those who do his bidding. So all of this destruction, all this scary stuff, the Lord is sending out.
So this is future too.
Yeah.
You know, that verse there, that great and terrible day is when the tribulation hits.
Yeah, for great is the day of the Lord.
Yeah.
Give you a lot of revelation.
Well, and that's what we talked about last week, is how much of Revelation is.
There's a lot. You almost see the same.
The ideas in Revelation are they're pulling from these Old Testament prophets.
I also understand her agency question.
Yeah.
Who's the agent here? Is it the Lord? The Lord, are these locusts functioning at the Lord's bidding?
So, yes, yes, and I think is a good. And what's the and?
Yeah, numberless are those who do his bidding. So anything, God can locusts, Babylons, whatever, to do his bidding.
Yeah. So like that's. So I think you have that yes. Yeah. Because so you have this. So we get this picture in our mind that locusts have come and just overtaken the land, right? And we're revealed at the beginning of 2 here. The locusts are actually this army that has come in, that we understand to be Assyria here, but they have just come in and just like decimated everything. So even so much so that we mentioned a little bit ago that the farmers can't even do the sac. They can't do any of the holy stuff, right? Like that's and then so they can't do anything, and it gets us to that point because in verse 11 and 12 it switches to a more hopeful tone. So it's the back part of 11 is, for the day of the Lord is great and very terrible, who can endure it? And then then you have this turn. So it gets to the worst of it, and then you have this turn. The Lord says, turn to me with all your heart and fasting, with weeping and mourning. And then it says, rend your heart, not your garments. Like that's, and I like that because I think it's a little dig at the righteous class in Israel, like that's, and I think I said it last week. It's almost like, ooh, we're in a time of mourning. So the temple budget, there's a line item for garments to be rent, like that. That's, and so like that's, you get a line item budget for that here. It's like, oh, we're in this time of mourning. And it's like, yeah, but are you just performing? It's because you think this is what God wants to see. Like that. That's it's is it that performative nature that they're still kind of acting like Babylon? It's like no, like actually mourn in all these things. I've been talking funerals with people lately, and it's that's one of my big things I try to talk about in funerals. Like, actually mourn. Let's not say these platitudes of like, oh, they're in a better place or something like that. Like it's you lost a loved one. We don't mourn. We just mourn with hope. Like that's, and it's like everything has been destroyed. You have all this lushness that is destroyed. All this garden stuff has been destroyed. It's like now's not a time for performance. It's like let this actually be. let this actually be. I don't know, that's kind of how I read that. And it says, like, return to the Lord, for he's gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and of great kindness. That's continuing verse 13. And he relents from doing harm. So you have in the span of, I mean, what does it take us? 15 seconds to read verse 11, 12, and 13. You have who can endure it, and God relents from doing harm. Like that. It's this interesting move that changes in the text. I don't know. So let's do the latter half of two here. What's standing out to you? What's standing out?
Perhaps I am desperate for something upbeat.
Well, this is very much more upbeat here.
Am I seeing a foretelling of the crucifixion?
Oh, okay.
That I will pour the Spirit on all flesh. Your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your old men shall dream dreams. It starts out in my book as the Lord will pour out his Spirit.
Yeah.
It's written in Acts.
Yeah, that's Pentecost.
Bingo.
Yeah. That's Pentecost, and I think you're picking up that language. And what verse is that again?
Well, it starts
28.
to 28 in my book.
In 28. Yeah. And so you have this idea of that the Lord is coming and pouring himself onto all people. And it's also like,
Did they repent, and this was the Lord's forgiveness in this section, you think?
Is it tied to repenting?
Don't you think that he was asking for repentance in that?
I think he was asking for it. It's just, the only reason why I question that is was Pentecost tied to repentance? You know, like that's, but what Pentecost is tied to is the great and glorious day of the Lord. Who can endure it? Because we see in the Gospels, all four Gospels end on the great and glorious day of the Lord, which is where God himself destroys himself. You know, he becomes a servant that he faces the great and glorious day of the Lord, and no one else does. And it's in Pentecost is tied to that. Like the pouring out of the Spirit on all mankind is tied to that great and glorious day of the Lord. You know, like that's and that God is almost absorbing the sins of everyone and pouring out his Spirit. Now, is that what's communicated here in Joel? That's looking at things, you know, you're doing a big old loop, getting some New Testament stuff and coming back. Does the Jewish Study Bible have anything interesting to say? I guess that would be chapter 3, verse 1.
It just says, prophecy, dreams, and visions were the three recognized ways in which human beings received communications from God. God will once again reveal himself to the people.
Okay. So, to me, what I just heard, how they understand that there, is that seems like a sister verse to that verse 13 of rend your heart, not your garments. And that suddenly this prophecy, this speaking the truth of God, is coming through again through dreams and all of this again. Is that, do you think I'm hearing that right there?
And it also says in verse 13, well, he says it here, that it's a quotation from Exodus 34:6, that for he's gracious and compassionate, slow to anger, abounding in kindness and renouncing punishment. That's what God says to Moses after the second time he goes up Sinai.
Which is after.
Where he has the law.
Yeah, where he has the law, and that's, and the calf thing is all around that.
Yeah, it was after that.
Yeah. So the golden calf, and they repented. Yeah, they repent there. So it's quoting Exodus, and so what was that verse that was quoting Exodus again?
Exodus 34:6.
And then what's the verse in?
13.
13.
The second part of 13, for he is gracious.
I knew that quote was in there, I just didn't mark it.
That passage, you see it all over the Old Testament.
Yeah, that God is gracious
Grace
and
and abounding in love.
yeah. And so you see it almost in the times when it seems so dark.
That's when it comes.
Yeah, that's when it comes. Which is
Pastor?
yeah.
The return to the Lord 12. The term yet even now return to me.
Yeah.
It's an ownership. I keep thinking of nothing can separate you from God.
Yeah.
That's the no matter what's gonna happen, I'll always be there for you when you repent.
Yeah. Like it's I'll always be there. I'll always be there. And turn to me, with fasting, weeping, mourning, and rending your hearts, not just your garments. Like let's do this for real this time. Yeah, I think it's good.
juxtaposed against verse 21 in chapter 2, where he says, be not afraid, O land, be glad and rejoice. Surely the Lord is doing great things. And it balances against the sackcloth and the wailing and the gnashing of teeth, or whatever it was going on in chapter 1. I don't know where it is.
With the
He says, wail, all you drinkers of wine, wail because the new wine has been snatched from your lips. So later on, he says, put on sackcloth, O priests, and mourn, wail, all you who minister before the altar.
and what verse are you looking at right now?
17.
113,
Okay, 113.
But on 221, he says, be not afraid, be glad and rejoice. And I'm just saying, we transition.
Yeah, we transition. That's a good way of looking at it. And that whole section, kind of beginning with verse 18 there, is about that transition, because where before that, it's almost like this grotesque, scary image of scaling walls and things like that. And then, like verse 19, I think was what you just read, like, I will send you grain and new wine and oil, and you will be satisfied. And you won't be the reproach of nations. And then verse 20, but I will remove far from you the northern army, and I will drive them away into the barren, desolate land. It's like I will get rid of them. You're talking about all this. Oh, and I really like this phrase too. So continuing in verse 20, with his face towards the eastern sea and his back towards the western seas, his stench will come up and his foul odor will rise because he has done monstrous things. That's really interesting imagery there, where it's the revelation of what they truly are will be revealed, and everyone will see how grotesque they actually are in there. Like I talked about it last week, we'll mention it again. I'm slowly making my way through the Lord of the Rings, and I think Tolkien is going through that with the orcs, like that they are this disgusting, evil thing. And all these people that are wanting power keep talking with and using the disgustingness of the orcs. And so that's kind of interesting. So and that also reminds me, where did I write that? I wrote this down somewhere. Oh yeah, I wrote it right there. It reminds me of in Revelation, when we're going through Revelation, and we got to that point of where it talked about the grapes of wrath, and that they are everything that what we'll call Babylon there. Everything that all the powerful nations have produced is being squeezed out into this wine that they are drinking. And they're getting drunk off of all of this excess, and we're calling it the grapes of wrath there, and everyone can see just how disgusting it is. And there's a couple moments in Revelation, which I have a feeling John, when he's writing Revelation, he's picking up the prophecy languages of like, everyone will notice how gross this all is, but when you're in it, you're often blindsided by it. But he's like, everyone will see how monstrous they are, but fear not, rejoice and be glad, for the Lord has done marvelous things. Like that.
Do you see that, Pastor, as a self-destruction, or is it more of a battle?
That's a good way. I put that's the heart of self-destruction is a great way of putting it. That's the heart of my phrase. Careful what you wish for, you just might get it. That we may desire and want things, and it'll destroy us to get them. Like that. That's and then we hold things too close. A lot of times, and I think that's kind of what we're saying there. So yeah, you have 22 there. There's do not be afraid, you beasts of the field. The open pastures are springing up, and the trees bear its fruit. Like again, the restoration of Eden. That the beasts are out in the field grazing, and there's abundance all around, and the trees are producing fruit.
26, 27, he goes on to say that, and then you will, I'm going to go to 27. Then you will know that I am in Israel, that I am the Lord your God, and there is no other, and never again will my people be shamed. He's restored them.
Yeah. So like he is constantly restoring him. So we see, and a whole section 23, 24, 25 is all about like the restoration, like the grain, the threshing floors will be full of wheat, and like I'm going to restore you to the years that the swarming locusts have eaten. Like that's like I'm restoring all of that away from you.
You learn that locusts are good to eat.
Yeah, you learned that. Yeah, okay, that's
not in
there. Is that not in there?
You can see you'll eat locusts.
Yeah. I was like, well, that might be an interesting thing he's saying. So you see this already. You see this like it comes in, but there will be this restoration that comes in also there. And so as we close out today, and we'll talk about chapter 3 in the Jewish Study Bible, which is chapter 2, verse 28, for all of us English speakers here.
How far does it go? It's chapter 3.
Where your chapter 3 starts is my chapter 4. So it's only 4 verses.
Yeah.
3 is only 4 verses.
So we'll start there next week. But what I see the prophets, what they're doing is beware of the ways of Babylon. Beware the ways of it. Like don't build the towers trying to become like God. And the towers aren't like, oh man, like Miami's got it coming because they've got some tall buildings in it. Like that's like, I don't think that's what it's about. It's like we build these towers, whatever they are, where we're like, I'm kind of above where God can get. We may never say that, but that's how we treat it a lot of times, you know?
As we near the end, let me beat the dead horse.
Yeah.
Rhetorical question. This is restoration then.
Mm-hmm.
How is it going to occur? And I will argue again, the Lord will pour out his Spirit, and we're looking toward crucifixion and resurrection.
Yes. I do think that is it. And you're given so the crucifixion and resurrection is what Mick was talking about. And we see that, and you can see why all of that makes sense too, because in the midst of the locust overcoming everything, you have Easter, you know? And we put that on the one true Israelite, which is Jesus, you know, like is the true man, which is why I say things like his death became our death, his resurrection becomes our resurrection. You know, so like that's all these things kind of coincide there. Excellent. Any last things? Good deal. So we'll end the class right there for everyone that's watching on YouTube, recording all that. Thanks for joining us today. All right. So are there